So good day and welcome to your lecture on pollution. I'm Dr. Jamie Natasha Paga from the Department of Preventive and Community Medicine. So these are the objectives of our lecture for today. So let's start with air pollution. Air pollution is one of the greatest environmental risks to health today. By reducing air pollution levels, countries can reduce the burden of disease from stroke, heart disease, lung cancer, and both chronic and acute respiratory diseases. In the Philippines, air quality is monitored by the Environmental Management Bureau of the Department of Environment and Natural Resources. In 2019, 99% of the world's population was living in places where the WHO air quality guideline levels were not met. The combined effects of ambient air pollution and household air pollution are associated with 6.7 million premature deaths annually. Ambient air pollution is estimated to have caused 4.2 million premature deaths worldwide in 2019. Some 89% of those premature deaths occurred in low and middle income countries, and the greatest number in the WHO, Southeast Asia, and Western Pacific regions. Air pollutants are known to precipitate harmful effects in the body, and these will include your particulate matter, sulfur oxides, nitrogen oxides, carbon monoxide, and your volatile organic compounds. So let's start with your particulate matter. This is a complex mixture of extremely small particles and liquid droplets, and it's composed of the following components: acids, organic chemicals, metals, soil particles, and dust particles. Particulate PM2.5 is an ambient air particle measuring up to 2.5 microns. And this pollutant is widely regarded as the most harmful to human health. It's so small that it readily enters the bloodstream when inhaled and travels throughout the body, causing far-reaching health effects. According to the 2019 World Air Quality Report, the Philippines was said to have 17.6 micrograms of PM2.5, holding the 57th place from the country with the worst air quality. Sadly, air quality in the country in 2019 was considered moderately unsafe for Filipinos. Particulate matter is linked to acute myocardial infarction, bronchial asthma, bronchitis, and impaired lung function. Regionally, South Asia, Southeast Asia, and the Western Asia carry the highest burden of fine particulate matter pollution overall. Next, carbon monoxide. This is a colorless, highly poisonous gas. Under pressure, it becomes liquid, and this is produced by burning gasoline, natural gas, charcoal, wood, and other fuels. It's initially non-irritating, and it is produced by the incomplete combustion of organic matter and carbon-based fuels like kerosene. The most common sources for this are your old motor vehicles and other gasoline-powered tools, heaters, cooking equipment in the domestic and industrial settings. And exposure to 100 parts per meter or greater can be dangerous to human health. Affected organs will include your cardiovascular system, your heart and blood vessels, which can cause death, and it can also cause neurological and respiratory problems. Sulfur oxides is one of the most common end products in the combustion of sulfur-containing fossil fuels like coal and crude petroleum. Among the gas-phase sulfur oxide compounds, sulfur dioxide is the most relevant in terms of atmospheric chemistry as well as health effects. It is a colorless, pungent gas primarily used to manufacture sulfuric acid. Sulfur dioxide forms sulfurous acid upon contact with the eyes, mucous membranes, and the skin, causing burning and irritation, including excessive lacrimation. It can also induce vagal reflex bronchoconstriction and bronchorrhea, which exacerbates your bronchial asthma. It can also cause cough, dyspnea, pulmonary edema, cyanosis, and respiratory arrest. So sulfur dioxide comes mainly from activities such as burning of coal and oil at power plants or from copper smelting. In nature, sulfur dioxide can be released to the air from volcanic eruptions as well. Nitrogen oxides are generated mainly from the process of combustion from engines and power plants. You primarily get it from in the air from the burning of fuel. It also forms from emissions from cars, trucks, buses, power plants, and off-road equipment. Exposure to nitrogen oxides commonly occur indoors through the exposure to cooking stoves. Once it is released from its source, nitrogen oxide is rapidly converted to nitrogen dioxide, and at high levels, nitrogen dioxide is associated with increased prevalence of allergic sensitization. At low levels, nitrogen oxide can cause irritation of the eyes, nose, throat, and lungs. It can also cause inflammation and edema. In high concentration, it can irritate airways in the human respiratory system and can aggravate respiratory diseases, particularly asthma, leading to respiratory symptoms, hospital admissions, and visits to the emergency room. Longer exposures to elevated concentration of this gas may contribute to the development of asthma and respiratory disease. Next are your volcanic volatile organic compounds. These are emitted from household chemicals such as paint, cleaning supplies, pesticides, inks, adhesives, permanent markers, and photogenic materials. Prolonged exposure to VOCs can cause conjunctival irritation, nose and throat discomfort, headache, allergic skin reactions, dyspnea, decline in cholinesterase levels, nausea, emesis, epistaxis, fatigue, and dizziness. When exposed to sunlight, these VOCs are converted then to your ozone. Inhalation of ozone can precipitate chest pain, cough, and throat irritation, which aggravates your bronchitis, emphysema, and bronchial asthma. Direct inhalation of ozone can also lead to the reduction of your forced expiratory volume and forced vital capacity among your healthy individuals. So the question is, like, what is this ozone? Didn't they used to say when we were kids that the ozone is good? So you actually have two types of ozone. You have the good ozone, which is found in the upper atmosphere, which helps protect the Earth from harmful UV rays. However, you also have the bad ozone, and this is your ground level ozone. Ground level ozone is a secondary pollutant as it is created by a mix of chemicals reacting in the sunlight. Ozone is more likely to reach unhealthy levels in urban areas during the warmer months. But as ozone can travel long distances from the source, it can also affect the rural areas. When ozone levels are high, people with lung conditions and bronchial asthma are most at risk, along with children, outdoor workers, and people who exercise outdoors. Short-term exposure can cause irritation to the eyes, chest pain, coughing, and wheezing, while long-term exposures can precipitate bronchial asthma exacerbation, reduce lung function, and cause chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. So let's go now to the laws and regulations that help that were made to target these forms of pollution. So the Philippine Clean Air Act of 1999 is the law that aims to formulate a holistic national program of air pollution management and encourage cooperation and self-regulation among citizens and industries through market-based instruments. The Act mandates the implementation of air quality action plan that includes emission limits, monitoring and control strategies, and the development of an integrated air quality improvement framework at the local level, among others. The Act also provides for the creation of a national program of air pollution management, focusing primarily on pollution prevention for the promotion of mass media communication in order to create social awareness and active participation in air quality planning and monitoring. The Clean Air Asia Clean Air Initiative for Asian Cities, or the Clean Air Asia, works towards an Asia without air pollution. It provides leadership and technical knowledge to reduce air pollution through its programs, air quality and climate change, and sustainable transport. It promotes climate and clean air technologies such as electric mobility, fuel efficient vehicles, walking and cycling, and clean technologies for power. So next, let's move to your water pollution. Due to rapid urbanization and population growth, the available supply of clean potable water is unable to keep up with the global demand. In 2014, the WHO reported about 1.8 billion people use a water source that is contaminated by feces. The water that we use for drinking and other daily activities are usually just from the surface and the underground. So water pollution is the presence of contamination in one or both sources of water that can potentially result in an environmental illness. Common water pollutants include your organic chemicals, heavy metals, nitrates, and pathogens. Organic chemicals include your gasoline and other petroleum hydrocarbons, detergents, byproducts of disinfectants, food processing waste, insecticides, and herbicides, your volatile organic compounds, PCBs, trichloroethylene, and various chemical compounds found in personal hygiene and cosmetic products. It's also associated with the development of dermatitis, malignant neoplasms, congenital and birth defects, and even your central nervous system disorders. Heavy metals will include your arsenic, cadmium, cobalt, chromium, copper, mercury, and lead in water, usually coming from motor vehicles via urban stormwater runoff and from acid mine drainage. A very, very good example of this would be your Minamata disease in Japan, which was caused by methyl mercury poisoning. Heavy metals are often absorbed in the GIT before they are dispersed to the different parts of the body, where they can also cause deleterious effects. So let's just talk about your Minamata disease very briefly. Minamata was a small city in Japan. In 1908, the Nippon Chiso, a company in the vanguard of the chemical industry of Japan, built its factory in Minamata. In 1932, the company started its operations by combining atmospheric nitrogen with calcium carbide to produce calcium cyanamide, a chemical fertilizer. And in 1941, it became the first Japanese producer of vinyl chloride. The city's population grew as the company expanded, and after World War II, the factory regained its production capacity and led Japan's reconstruction and economic development in the post-war era. However, this economic success had an unexpected cause, a very severe neurological disease caused by industrial pollution. So this is where your Minamata disease comes in, which consisted of severe brain and nervous system damage, and sometimes death was and sometimes even death. And this disease was discovered in 1956. At that time, they noted that this disease affected people in fishing communities. According to official government measures published in 2001, about 2,265 individuals in the area were afflicted, and 1,784 of those victims died as a result of the poisoning and/or the disease. The cause of the Minamata disease was ultimately identified as mercury metal in the effluents from the Chiso factory in Minamata Bay. Before the disease hit human beings, through the food chain, fish of Minamata Bay began to float on the surface, and even the cats who were eventually eating the fish and drinking the water were seen to be acting strangely, and they ended up by dashing into the sea into the water to drown themselves. So so that's a concrete example of heavy metal poisoning. So next, let's move to your nitrates. Nitrates are primarily ground contaminants, such as your fertilizers and animal manure rich with hydrogen compounds. So in infant's digestive tract, the nitrates are converted to nitrites by certain bacteria, which can combine with your hemoglobin, thereby forming your methemoglobin. And methemoglobinemia is common in infants in less than 6 months of age. So, to address the problem of water pollution in the country, we have the Clean Water Act of 2004, or your Republic Act 9275. This act, in a nutshell, provides for the abatement and control of pollution from land-based sources and lays down water quality standards and regulations. This applies to water quality management in all water bodies, including freshwater, brackish water, and marine waters. It also includes the prevention, control, and abatement of pollution of the country's water resources, to promote environmental strategies for the protection of water resources, to formulate a national program of water quality management, and promote commercial and industrial processes and products that are environmentally friendly and energy efficient. In the Act, there's also the enforcement of water quality standards, regulations, and penalties. In addition, standards for the transport and disposal of effluent, sewage, and septage off-site, whether offshore or on land, as well as disposal of wastewater on land, shall be formulated by the DENR. So, yeah, that pretty much marks the end of this lecture. So we're just going to be focusing on the policies that were mentioned in this PowerPoint. So if you read if you have further questions about it, feel free to ask me by emailing me, or we can just talk about it during your plenary session. Thank you.